And the grand total of people who have died from COVID since the beginning of the pandemic 16 months ago, who are 18 or younger, is 362. 300.
Cool. Can they spread it? If they get it, can they spread it? Does that work? Oh, it does? Okay. So what the does that mean? If you say that out loud right now to millions of people on Fox, or sorry, not on Fox. This is the Megyn Kelly show. I have to be more specific. Yeah, you know, you could have fooled me. Okay, I haven't seen this yet. I want to see. I need some fun. I've got a lot of fun stuff peppered in between everything. Man, what just a spellbinding fall from grace this man has been. It has just been wild to see. I actually didn't even intend to have this clip look like this, but hey, let's... A quick 50-second edit by Vic Berger.
I hope people get vaccinated. I believe in the vaccine, but I would want to be persuaded to take it and not bullied or coerced. Do you know that 74 million people in the United States, 74 million, are 18 years or younger? And the grand total of people who have died from COVID since the beginning of the pandemic 16 months ago, who are 18 or younger, is 362. 362 out of 74 million, a virtually non-existent risk.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Today, my 14-year-old son got the vaccine, and I still am in doubt about whether that was the right thing to do.
Oh, you fearmongers. All right, I want to see the full version of this.
All right, so let's talk about the news of the day, which begins with a guy named Michael Sussman. This story is incredible, and I recommend that everybody read. Well, you should read Andy McCarthy on National Review, no matter what, because he's brilliant, but especially if it involves something legal. He's always got great insights, and he has a great piece today that walks us through.
I'm disappointed it wasn't Glenn Beck.
I
think I have a problem.
Broad brush, here's what's happened.
That's on you.
We've gotten an indictment now in the John Durham investigation. He was the special counsel appointed to look into how the hell did Russiagate happen? How did we have, all of these accusations being...
By the way, the elements of Trump and his entire team and their collusion with people in Russia versus the fact that Russia was effectively actually changing and manipulating the entirety of the American electorate and the causes why Trump was elected. That's the part that's just ridiculous. That's the part that the blue wave crowd ran with and that whole thing. But Glenn Beck and Fox News, they have been milking the fact that they were kind of ahead of the curve on calling that shit out for such a long time. They're milking it as much as the Russiagate people milked Russiagate at this point. It's continuously and as you know, it turned out that this was a little bit incorrect and this was certainly facetious and this is like, oh, absolutely. And that's why vaccines make you eat the horse paste. Just right out of the gates.
Being hurled around and impeachment and all of this based on a bunch of nonsense. So we have the special counsel, John Durham, looking into it. And he has just secured a grand jury indictment. His investigation's not over, but he had to do it because the 5-year statute of limitations.
There were a lot of elements that were real. That's the part that I think they kind of skirt those under the corner. They don't want anyone to know about it. But it's like, yes, of course, there was people who were indicted. Michael Flynn was indicted. Come on. There were elements of definitely collaboration between those two organizations. I think where it becomes ridiculous is where you think that they actually concernedly were one of the major factors and reasons why Donald Trump got elected, and that's some reason that we have to do a massive investigation and possibly impeach him because of his collusion with Russia. Whereas a lot of it is just very shady business dealings and power grabs and manipulations, certainly by very rich and powerful individuals in both countries. And of course, whatever you can consider Steve Bannon.
Issue warrants to allow them to spy on Carter Page, who, as everyone might remember, was a former official of the Trump campaign. It was somebody that Russiagators and liberal fanatics adamantly believed was about to be in prison, that he was a Russian agent. And when the Mueller report came out, they said they couldn't find any evidence that Carter Page ever was acting as an agent for the Kremlin, but they lied to the FISA court. The FBI did, and Durham got a guilty plea.
Why are you still rehashing this?
Before we get to the Met Gala, Don Lemon, Don the Met Gala, as Tucker calls him, on Wednesday night, took it to a
Glenn
new
does not
level.
look well.
He was
Yeah, he
taking
looks,
aim at the some
looks like he's having a bit of a
46%
rough
of
one.
Americans who are not fully vaccinated, and he wants them to know, Glenn. He wants you to know and me to know. He's had it. Here he is just the other night.
I think we have to stop coddling people when it comes to this and the vaccine, saying, oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are. The people who aided and abetted Trump are stupid because they believed his big lie. The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind.
Look,
because they're...
See, this is what I was talking about before. I think there is a big problem, especially on liberal media, with the whole like shaming of the poors stuff. And I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to be poor if you're not taking the vaccine, but like I'm all for shaming people who are protesting in front of hospitals, who are blocking fucking ambulances, who are going into schools. Like, you know, you should just be subject to the law for doing all those kind of weird things, right? But at the end of the day, the outreach and the bigger problems as to why people are choosing to believe in these mass conspiracies, whether it's QAnon, whether it's anti-vax, whether it's some kind of idea that there's mind control going through the vaccines or anything like that, that's never been addressed. That's never been looked at. And that is a real cause of a problem here. Like, I was hoping through all these investigations into the January 6th insurrection into the United States that people would start to look at this as a much broader issue. Like, if you're people like us who are like, we love studying and learning about online culture, and you start learning about like how QAnon propagated, how it went from 4chan and jumped to 8chan and then into 8kun and all the people who were responsible and involved in the entire thing, and how it went from maybe being someone who was completely anonymous to being maybe the organizers and owners of the websites themselves, who were then controlling tens of thousands of people, which in some ways you can look at them as these kind of disconnected cells. Like, that's all super important. Every part of that is.
God, those communists are amazing.
Thank you, Matthew25, for the $5. Should I let the robot say it? The robot's gonna say it. If I start saying it out loud myself, the robot will say it, and then I'll be like, why am I doing this? Hey Waves, curious or stupid question. What do you think of China's influence in your country? Do you think it is a threat to your country? China is a threat. If you're talking about a military threat, as in China is going to exude power through a violent means in Canada, extremely unlikely, very, very unlikely. What China has in terms of its power and coercion over Canada is just ownership of a lot of stuff. Certainly a lot of property is owned by China. I think China and Canada are enormous trading partners, which is why it's in their economic incentive to keep doing so. We buy a lot of their cheap consumer items. And that's part of the process. The threat to me is making me a fatty with their yummy food. Like, I think there's a lot of gross and deplorable things that maybe Canada and or China do in partnership or in unison. I don't think there's ever going to be a threat in terms of like a military threat from China. There could be a ramping up within our lifetimes of a Cold War. We're already seeing that. The idea of huge amounts of weapons manufactured, proxy wars being done in various parts of the world, and the huge armament of world superpowers in preparation for a war that hopefully never happens, and to the benefit largely of, again, the military-industrial complex. These are more consistent constants to me than the idea of what you're usually sold in mainstream media about what the cause is going to be of conflict between two nations. Like, nation states, we're often told one narrative very distinctly through the media. Sometimes it's totally clouded, like when you have someone like Bush talking to you about how these terrorists hate our freedom, and that's the reason why they go after us. You're either with us or against us. Keep things very simple. The messaging is kind of on point, versus what's actually happening behind the scenes. And once you learn what's actually happening behind the scenes, it's like, well, yeah, if you look at things through a more material lens, what exactly is the economic incentive for the people who control the levers of power, who will have the most capital, the most control in those issues?
Keeping the majority of Americans behind.
And Cuomo went on to say, I agree with everything you just said. So it's time to start shaming people, Glenn, because our moral arbiters, Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo, know better.
Yeah, those intellectual and moral giants, Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo, are going to guide us in our choices and punish us if we don't instantly submit to their superior wisdom.
I mean, I know I'm react-anding to the react-andies here, but it's kind of funny. I mean, it kind of feels like they're just holding a mirror up to each other. You're a wannabe intellectual titan. No, you're the wannabe intellectual titan. But mind you, what does that make me? Shit.
You know, I feel in part so enraged hearing that, just that condescension for so many millions of people for the crime of not immediately agreeing with their point of view. But I also think it's really important to hear them say that openly and that explicitly, because that is how they think. And, you know, I don't know what your experience has been, Meg.
I think, like, if you have someone who tells you, hey, this is apartheid, okay? What you are doing right now, this is apartheid in this country. I'm being treated with a separate set of rules against my will because I do not want to comply, okay? I have every available opportunity to get the vaccine. Yes, I live very close to a center. There's no lines anymore, okay? I know it's already been paid for, so I don't have to pay out of pocket for it. I can do all of that any point I want, but I don't want to. I do not want to comply because I do not believe in it. If it works, why blank? If it's so good, why then blank? Have you thought about blank? Oh, you have an answer for all those. Oh, well, still, I want to go to the club. I want to go to the club. Then those people, the people who want to go to the club, who want to be in tight, squishy environments, spreading disease to other people that could eventually reach someone who is immunocompromised. That's a big problem.
Megan, but, you know, in terms of the question of the vaccine, I did decide early on that I was going to take the vaccine, but I was very happy that I had the ability to inform myself about all the pros and cons and read as much as I could and make that decision for myself
Certainly.
in consultation with my
Certainly.
doctors based on my age and my
If
health
you have
and every
access
other
to a doctor,
consideration.
you're very wealthy
you know,
in Brazil.
My husband had a different set of choices. He actually had COVID. He's a little bit younger. So we debated whether he should take it given the natural immunity that he had. And we were happy he had that choice. He took it. Today, my 14-year-old son got the vaccine. In fact, he just got it while we've been talking. I just got the picture. And I still am in doubt about whether that was the right thing to do. You know, we ultimately decided he should, but given that he's 14, do you know that 74 million people in the United States, 74 million are 18 years or younger? And the grand total of people who have died from COVID since the beginning of the pandemic 16 months ago, who are 18 or younger, is 362. 300.
Cool. Can they spread it? If they get it, can they spread it? Does that work? Oh, it does? Okay. So what the fuck does that mean? If you say that out loud right now to millions of people on Fox, or sorry, not on Fox. This is the Megyn Kelly show. I have to be more specific. Yeah. You know, you could have fooled me.
162 out of 74 million, a virtually non-existent risk for children who are now injecting.
That is so disingenuous and dangerous. That's dangerous. Like, it's not medical misinformation. He's not saying anything that isn't true, but it's manipulation for sure. Like, you're aware that if you concentrate on this, if you keep that, if that's your messaging, people who watch this and listen to this, who are on the fence about this, and they hear that, they're like, whoa, that's it? That's the amount of people who've done. Why would I vaccinate my kids then? Why would I risk that? You know, that's a huge danger. Like, oh, it's such a narrow, short-sighted idea of how either disease or infections or a pandemic works.
With this vaccine, despite not knowing the long-term.
Not gonna lie, it's wild seeing people like Rogan, who used to make fun of people that were anti-MMR vaccine, now be anti-vax themselves. Yeah, I know. Like, where are the skeptics? Where's everyone whose bread and butter back in the day was making fun of the wine mums who are like, I don't want to vaccinate my children? And then you're like, well, you really should, because that's how we've eliminated historically a whole bunch of diseases that we don't really have to think of as problems anymore. And so probably you should do that, right? And it's like, no, Rob Schneider told me not to vax my kids, and Rob Schneider's a doctor, or he plays one, a doctor, prostitute, and something. I'm not entirely sure. And so why shouldn't I do that? I think I should have the right to decide whether or not I vaccinate my children.
Risk. So I hope people get vaccinated. I believe in the vaccine, but I would want to be persuaded to take it and not bullied or coerced. And what they're going to do is it's going to backfire, because the more you hear people like Don Lemon telling you that you're stupid if you don't obey, the more the instinct is to just purposely defy what he's telling you to do. That's how we got Trump in the first place. And they still haven't learned that lesson.
I want to talk about Don Lemon
That's
for
how
a
we got
second.
Trump.
Don Lemon
Wow.
thought that Malaysia airplane was sucked up by a black hole. Don Lemon thought a woman being allegedly
Actually, is that a thing, or was he joking? That sounds like a joke you'd make on air.
raped by Bill Cosby could have stopped it by biting his penis while she was being forced.
Wait, he said that too? Holy shit, Don Lemon. This is good because, like, I don't like any of these characters. Like, I think they're all terrible. So it's nice seeing them throw shade at each other because now I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about Don Lemon. Yeah, he sucks. You suck too, Meg. Everyone sucks on this panel. It's all true? No way. Okay, yeah, let's rewind that. I want to hear the Don Lemon Power Hour a little bit more.
Lesson.
I want to talk about Don Lemon for a second. Don Lemon thought that Malaysia airplane was sucked up by a black hole.
Wow.
Don Lemon thought a woman being allegedly raped by Bill Cosby could have stopped it by biting his penis while she was being forced to perform oral sex. Don Lemon's an idiot. Wow. And Don Lemon is in no position to be lecturing anyone when it comes to morals, nor is Chris Cuomo, right? Chris Cuomo.
I'm sorry, wasn't that Keemstar's defense of, what's his face? I always forget which one's the boxer. Oh no, they're both boxers, so it doesn't even matter. But yeah, his defense of like that sexual assault accusation was that like Jake Paul's sexual assault accusation. Keemstar's defense was like, that's definitely not a true story because he said he had oral sex with her. And if he had done that, that means she could have bit off his penis, but she didn't, therefore not truly assault. And you're like, what the fuck? What the ever-loving fuck are you saying?
Cuomo decided to dismiss all of the accusers against his brother, whose claims were backed up and verified by independent witnesses as part of, quote, cancel culture. He didn't give a shit about anything his brother had done and is in no position to lecture us. Don Lemon is credibly accused of shoving his hands down, fondling his own balls, and then rubbing his hands along the face of a complete stranger in a bar. Witness.
Is that one true too? Because I'm learning all kinds of things right now.
By a bartender who is independent and not connected to either man. Okay, there's a lawsuit about it right now. Lemon denies it. But I don't want to hear from Don Lemon on morals, on stupidity, which he is an expert on.
By the way, this whole rant is all about the vaccines. You may have forgotten because we've been hearing so much about Don Lemon lately, but that's what they're supposed to be talking about.
I don't want to hear from him at all. And this is a pattern for him. Yes, you're right. It's important that we see them say it so that we know what they really think about half the country. But we've had many lessons from Don Lemon when it comes to that. Who could forget this now infamous segment that he had with Rick Wilson and the guy, Wajah Ali, I forget how you pronounce it.
Oh, we got some fact checking. All right. CNN considers whether a black hole swallowed the missing Malaysia plane. I mean, hey, we have to put this in context. That was a strange time. We totally didn't know what was going on, and it seemed weird, and it was kind of like the plot of the movie Lost, but also like the plot of the movie Lost, it kind of just became worse and boring as it went on, and as we started to learn things, we were like, oh, it's just kind of... A lot of people have floated theories about what may have happened to Malaysia Airlines' missing jetliner. Terrorism, a fire, a remote landing. Even Courtney Love thought that she may have spotted the wreckage in the ocean. But with the search largely at the standstill over the past few days, there isn't necessarily much more reasonable ground to cover. That may be why CNN chose to turn to unreasonable ground yesterday when it began posting theories that it received from Twitter to former U.S. Transportation Department Inspector General Mary Shivo. What if it was something fully that we do not understand? Anchor Don Lemon asked, throwing out black holes, the Bermuda Triangle, the Twilight Zone, and the movie Lost as examples. I know it's preposterous, Lemon says, but what if it is preposterous? Do you think, Mary? Okay, all right, you have been debunked, Megyn Kelly. I'm sorry. That is someone saying, what if it's something we don't know? That's a reasonable thing to say, all right? If someone's like, hey, does God exist? I would say, I don't think so, but it's also totally reasonable to say, I don't know, though. Because I don't. And so if he's just like, and this sounds, like I said, it's entertainment. If you're like, hey, what if it was a black hole? The Bermuda Triangle, the Twilight Zone. Why not go with the Twilight Zone? This one sounds better. If actually it sounds less believable. That's why you didn't. Sneaky Megyn Kelly. Now it makes sense. Okay. All right.
His first name, forgive me. But here they are talking about Trump voters before the election. Listen.
That Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. He knows that this is, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base,
probably not
their audience.
Probably not wrong.
The credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump.
But this is what I was talking about at the start of the thing. You're doing that thing where if you shame like the conservative base that voted for Trump, which like work on the math, Donald Trump got 80 million votes. That's so many Americans. Like, there has to be some version of presenting or trying to do a reach out that's saying each one of them is rubes or the poors or hillbillies or racists. Was there racists? Of course. Are there people who are considered hillbillies who probably voted for Trump? Yes, I'm sure, right? Are there people who are also so disillusioned with the political system and just the state of what was going on around them, and they thought this one person had an answer to that, and that's not being addressed in the rest of society, instead of just being like, idiots, poors, rubes.
That wants to think that Donald Trump's a smart one, and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though
your math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading, your geography, knowing other countries.
But this is it's not just Don Lemon. It's not just Chris Cuomo, Glenn. It's a lot in the so-called elite media who are disturbingly in control of popular thinking.
Yeah, true.
And I think the important thing to remember is that the history of the coronavirus pandemic is one of grave error. In January, the World Health Organization endorsed the claim of the Chinese government that there was no evidence of person-to-person transmission in order to downplay the pandemic. In February and March, Fauci and the World Health Organization said that not only was wearing masks unnecessary,
I'll read it after this,
but that it could actually be harmful. And they told us that for several months. For 5 months, in the beginning of 2020, they said it's your moral duty to stay home and not go out for any reason, even to go to a deserted beach. If you do that, you're sociopathic and killing grandma. And then suddenly the Black Lives Matter riots happen, and they told us it was our moral duty to go participate in densely packed street protests because racism was a greater threat to the public health than the coronavirus pandemic. And then, of course, for an entire year, we were told that you're not even...
Okay, first off, Glenn, you were in Brazil. I do not think you were getting any kind of pressure. I don't know where this is coming from. You're kind of acting very strange. But again, they'll take things, and by they, I mean people who are kind of in this, mass media cycle that is making a lot of profit from talking about vaccine fears and vaccine woes and stuff like that. They'll take slivers of truth, things that are true, and focus on them and hyper-focus on them to the point where it is going to deliver, it is very powerful propaganda at the end of the day. It's the same thing when he was doing that part earlier where he's like, hey, this is the amount of kids who have died. It's very low. And it is very low. I mean, that's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's very low. But he won't say the second part, which is that they can still transfer COVID to other people. They can be asymptomatic, and they can be little COVID factories, talking and spitting on people and spreading COVID to them. And then those people can then spread it to other people who then spread it to people who are immunocompromised or old or unvaccinated. And those are the people that are going to end up dying. So it is very important, again, that we vaccinate as many people as we safely can.
Even allowed to suggest that we don't know the origins of the coronavirus, whether it came from a lab in Wuhan or whether it jumped species from bats or other animals. And now suddenly everyone recognizes that
I've seen the dog
have a real debate about that. So over and over, there are decrees from the really smart people who scoff at the idiots who don't obey, has been nothing but one error after the next, incompetence and ineptitude, and yet they still continue to be so enamored of their own intellect that they actually want to now structure a society, Megyn, no exaggeration, of segregation where you are a second-class citizen if you don't adhere to their judgment about what substances you should put into your body.
It's for very specific things. Things for the most part, that are in small, contained, closed areas that you would be surrounded by other people in. And I hate to be the one to break it to everybody, especially you, Glenn Greenwald. We already do this. You can't get into entire countries, if you don't have the proper vaccines. Like it's been a part of travel for a while. You add it to your passport. You have a little vaccination record. Yes, I'm preventative. Like I'm not going to get yellow fever if I travel. I will not be an extra burden to your country and your public healthcare system if I go over there and get incredibly sick because I refuse to get vaccinated. It's a thing we already do.
Regardless of how old you are, regardless of your health condition, regardless of whether you've already had COVID once or more, and thus have.
Those are things you do have to put into account. I'm totally on board with the fact that I think you need to do outreach to groups that are going to be hesitant to take vaccines for a variety of reasons, historical reasons most likely. And I think you also have to do, you have to make exceptions for other conditions, such as the fact that someone may not be able to get the vaccine at all. There are reasons why people just are told by their doctors they shouldn't be getting the vaccine. At the same time, people like that most likely are not the people who are fighting with Glenn right now to get into very squishy, sweaty environments. They're most likely not the ones, like he's using them. He's being like, well, yeah, but have we thought about people who can't even get the vaccine for a variety of reasons? They're not the ones who are like, but this is apartheid. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want lockdowns. And now we're like, okay, we don't have to have that. We can have society back. We can do that. We've got a plan. There's a vaccine. If everyone takes it, everybody, then this is over. It's done. That's the end of this. We're serious. That's the end of the entirety of the pandemic. If everyone takes it. Everywhere, just around the entire globe, the planet, everyone's got to take it. Every single person, regardless of how much money they have, regardless of where they're situated, everybody's got to get it. That's it. And then we run into all these massive problems where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we'll get it to those other countries soon. 2023, what we're looking at. And there'll be a few mutations and variants, a couple new letters in the Greek alphabet. I think we're on to Mu now. Mewtwo is on its way, and then we're going to get to Nu, and eventually we'll get to Omega, and then we can start again. We can do Alpha 2, Beta 2, Alpha 3, Beta 3.
Natural immunity. They want to prevent you from having a job, from going into public places, from going on an airplane. They
want you to do all those things. So they were like, hey, why don't we all get vaccinated? If we all get vaccinated, we don't have to do any of this. No more masks, no more lockdowns, no more anything. It's over with. It's just not a thing. No more all the problems that are coming from this, the increases in violence, the increases in anxiety, the increases in stress to people, the effect that it's having on jobs and entertainment and relationships and families, all of that. We would be done with it. It would be a great thing. We'd be like, hey, checkmark humanity. That's a gold star for humanity. Got to admit it. If we we did a lot of things that I'm already astonished by. I should actually, instead of just being gloomy and Glenny, talk about the astonishingly wonderful things that humanity accomplished during this process. It's pretty incredible. You got to think that we have technology that coordinates and connects all of us globally around the world with the ability to have crystal clear pictures just in the pocket of your hand with the sum total of human knowledge concentrated into a little credit card sized cube. That's all amazing. And we were capable of using technology that we previously developed, mRNA technology, to do this, to boost our immune systems, to actually hack our code and give us the power to recognize spike proteins. That's fucking badass. The scientists who did that, they should be incredibly proud of themselves. This is just a monumental accomplishment. And to think of how fast we did it, the brave individuals who wanted to be the first people experimented on with this and not even knowing what it would do to them and the side effects it could have, and then the thousands of others who were in the second and third wave. This is all incredible. Well done, humanity. And now we just got to that point where it's now we have to focus on distribution and, unfortunately, equality. We have to do it on a mass global scale. And people, the things you can do that are very lo-fi but still very important are things like wearing masks, of course, social distancing, things of that nature. But you've got a whole ecosystem of people who have tapped into, obviously there's a massive market for this. I get all this. It's huge. No one enjoys this. Even the people who are on our side, on the side of people who want to say that you should be mass vaccinated, that we should do a global mass vaccination campaign like we've done in the past. Even people who are saying that, we're all frustrated. No one likes being locked up. No one likes wearing a mask all the time if you don't have to, especially if you have a hard job or you have to breathe underneath that mask. Even exercising, anyone who's gone to a gym yet wearing a mask knows how terrible that experience is, right? None of it is fun or pleasant. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people who are really mad and angry about this, and they're also worried about losing their jobs and providing for their family. People have told them that maybe this is all a hoax, or it's blown out of proportion, or it's only going to affect children to such a small degree. Then why do we even have to worry about vaccinating kids at all? Open up the schools so I don't have to worry about, taking care of my kids and working my day job at the same time. This would all work out so much better.
Really do want a society where disobeying their superior judgment results in severe restrictions on your life, your ability to talk on the internet, your ability to express yourself. It is such an authoritarian mindset grounded in extreme condescension toward the intellect and morals of anyone who doesn't.
Because you're making it into this. Like, it sucks. I often think about this in terms of global warming. And I'm like, what if we went back in the Wayback Machine and Al Gore didn't become one of the biggest faces and one of the biggest voices for climate change? If it didn't become such a polarized issue between both parties. I mean, there's always going to be the problem that a lot of the energy sector aligns itself with conservatives, especially if you look at the Koch brothers and stuff like that. So that's going to be unavoidable, no question. So maybe it was just destined to always be something that was so highly politicized. But the same thing is happening now to this idea of vaccines. And again, like you pointed out, I don't know who it was in chat, totally correctly, Joe Rogan, it was Ramses, Joe Rogan and that whole crowd, they were very, very big, like most people, and the same thing with the atheists, the online atheists and the skeptic community, which were all massive YouTube communities, in ripping into the anti-vax crowd. You know, the San Fran bougie family kind of anti-vax, like, oh, well, you know, I just want to have like, you know, a natural life for my child, and I don't give him sugar, and I don't give him vaccines, and I don't give him modern medicine, and we just measure his chakras to make sure that he's okay on a regular basis, because I learned that on Goop, that if I buy him these chakra meters, then that's going to be great for him. And they were ripped into as being ridiculous all the time. Yeah, that's a good face. Hey, do you like movies? Do you like Serfs? Do you want movies and Serfs watching the movies? So then come over to the new channels. It's the Serfs Cinema. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Can you do the thing, you know, that thumbs up and comment and all those things that help us out in the algorithm that controls every aspect of our lives? Also, if you happen to have a Facebook account, can you delete it? Like, just delete it. You should probably delete your Facebook account because it's not a great company. But hey, if you can't do that for whatever reason, I understand. And could you also go to facebook.com/thesurftimes then and give us a little like and a follow. We're just trying to push back against the fact that people like Ben Shapiro happen to dominate the platform entirely. And when everyone asks why do older generations believe the things they believe, one of the problems is the majority of them on social media use Facebook. So to counter that, we're just going to be on there too now. Also, if you happen to have a union or a worker co-op or even a leftist project, podcast, website, Zoom, MySpace, it doesn't matter. We will advertise it for free on this channel. All you got to do is go to weareserfs.com and use the forms that we got there, weareserfs.com. Thanks, everybody.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, may you shower us mortals with gifts from the heaven. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are your humble jesters, clowning around for your amusement. To our lord, Trevor R. and Alexander Thaler, we give you our thanks for this meager land for us to toil our seed. To our knights of the Round Table, Egbard Sealine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariana McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Ants Are Still Running the World, Coulter Smith, Tom Groh, Val 9000, Jenna Tal, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Chronic de Hemphog, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our glasses and we salute you, our comrades.